Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Willis Wit and Wisdom. My name is Eric Willis,
And I'm Bob Willis, the dad in this situation.
and I'll be the son in this situation. We also
There
are,
we go.
yeah, we're also welcoming back a guest from our previous episode, Deanna Harrison. Deanna, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you.
It's always a good sign whenever you agree to come back. So thank you. Um, as the executive director of Pastors Hope Network, you provide care for pastors and their spouses who have been terminated. Um, and so, Dad, I mentioned last time that you were a pastor for 18 years, and you saw the good side, the bad side, the backside of church, and
Mhm.
a ministry like Pastor
Right,
Hope Network.
right.
What could that have done for the pastors that you knew, uh, and even for yourself, if
Mm,
Pastors Hope Network would have been available?
right, right. Because I can identify with the background I've heard about Deanna and what she went through. I remember driving in one night with our family in our car. There was a light on at the church, and I said, "Well, I wonder what that light's doing on in the church." When there were cars there, they were having a meeting, and I found out later that meeting was about me. And so it's a shock to our system when they're making plans for you. So it shakes up everything about you, and I know even about the calling. But I really appreciate what Deanna and her husband are doing at Pastors Hope Network, reaching out to pastors. But people who are watching this and listening to this, they may know of pastors who are struggling, who some of this is going on in their family. And I want to, Deanna, if you would please talk a little bit about that community of support that you have to offer to pastors who are going through this. Would you share a little bit more about the support?
I would love to, yes. When God first called us to start Pastors Hope Network, I had discussions of what should it look like? What should this organization be? What did my husband and I need when we first experienced the termination?
Mhm.
And so what we needed was, we really needed a job. We needed counseling. And for many pastors, they need help in making financial decisions. Luckily, my husband is incredibly gifted in the area of financial management, so we didn't actually need that. We also had the blessing of my father-in-law, who was a widower, saying, "Come live with me. I got a big empty house." And so we didn't have to worry about, once we sold our own home, we didn't have a mortgage payment. But those are the three things we built Pastors Hope Network around. So the first thing we offer is counseling. When you really need help working through all the grief and all the emotions you feel when you have been you've been forced to resign your church.
Mhm.
But if you have just lost your income, you're not going to pay upwards of $100 or $125 an hour.
Right.
You just don't have that money. I mean, when you've lost your income, your first big job to do is cut your budget everywhere possible. And
Right.
so what we do at Pastors Hope Network is we underwrite the cost of counseling for not only a pastor, but his spouse and his kids. If his kids need it, we're there for them as well.
Great.
We have a network of counselors that it's ever growing, but they're Christian counselors. They are. We also have life coaches. We have mentors. But they're all from this perspective of they're Christians and they love pastors. And
Great.
so some of them give us a discounted rate, which I greatly appreciate that, because that means I can do more to help a pastor. But we will underwrite the cost for a minister to seek that help. And
Good.
now, because of the pandemic, so much is virtual, and a lot of the across state lines regulations have been lessened, and so it's very simple. A pastor can get help in the privacy of his own home, and so I encourage ministers to take advantage
Right.
of the counseling. We
Great.
we also have the financial help as far as financial advising. financial guidance. And what that means, when somebody experiences the death of the death of a spouse, the surviving spouse is told, don't make any major decisions your first 6 months to a year. You don't do those things, don't make those decisions during a time of intense grief. Well, if you've just lost your job, you've been kicked out of your church, you have to make some decisions while you are still in the throes of grief. And so we have financial advisors who will just answer the difficult questions that ministers have. And let me give you a story to really show how this has worked beautifully. We had an associate pastor call us last year. He was nearing retirement age, but he wasn't ready to retire. But his church said, we can't afford you anymore, so you need to go ahead and retire. And so that's why he had to resign. It was a forced thing. And so he called me and he said, we're not ready financially to retire. I still have 2 years left on my mortgage payment. I guess I can take that out of my retirement funds to make my mortgage payment. And I said, I don't know if that's the best thing to do or not. Would you talk with one of our financial advisors? And he agreed to do that. And a few days later, he called me back and he said, Deanna, we're going to make it. They have shown us how to work our budget and how we can make our mortgage payment without touching my retirement funds. That was a win. That was big. And so our goal with offering the financial guidance is to help a minister avoid any poor financial decisions when they're going through a very difficult transition.
Right.
Great. And then the third thing we do is that whole job piece. Whether a minister is going to go and stay in ministry, or sometimes they say, I'm done, I'm through with it. I never want to walk into a church again. Wherever they are, they need an income. So whether it's applying for a job where they hope to stay in a new career, or whether it's a transitional position, we work on resumes. They can send us whatever they have as a resume, and we bring it up to speed to what resumes need to be today. We help them with cover letters. And in today's job market, every resume has to be customized for a specific job. And that's a shock for many ministers. They're used to just having their basic resume and it's word of mouth. And well, that's not how it works anymore. Even with church positions, everything's online. You still have to have a very tailored resume. And it's not that you're creating, it's not fiction at all. What I tell ministers is you come up with a master resume, put together, make a master list of every skill you have ever done. That is your master resume. And then when you apply for a church, we look at what is that church looking for? And we pull out the skills you have been using that are applicable to this particular position.
Right.
I compare it to your clothes closet, okay? You go to your closet every morning and all those clothes in there, they belong to you, they fit you, they are who you are. But if you are going to a wedding, you choose clothes specific for the wedding. If you are going out to eat with just your friends, you choose something much more casual. So you dress yourself, still you, still your clothes, but you dress yourself specific to the occasion. And in the same way, your master list on a resume is your wardrobe of your skills. And then you craft a resume for a specific job based on the skills that fit that particular job. And that's a lot of work. And one of the reasons we offer this at Pastors Hope Network is to do your resume, you have to go back and put down all these great things you have done in your ministry. And it's very painful because as you put your resume together, you're thinking, look at all I have done in my ministry. Why in the world am I at this point in my life now? Why did I get kicked out? And it brings up all that grief all over again. So it's very painful to do your resume. So if we can take part of that off of the minister, if they can just send us the stuff and then we take it from there and we craft it and we can work with them, send it back to them and say, how about this? Let's rephrase it this way. But we can sort of do it with them and take some of that pressure off. But so what we have done is we've created a support team for minister through that financial guidance, the counseling, the resume and job search. Those people are then, they become your support team. And as a minister has questions, whether it's financial or job related or that counseling, they have somebody to go to. And let me give you one more example. This is actually a very current example. A pastor and his wife contacted me. When they contacted me at that time, they'd been given 2 weeks to resign. So they are in the throes of figuring out and how to do this and how do you negotiate? These are situations they've never thought about being in, and seminary doesn't train you in how to get through a forced exit. Thankfully, we have someone in our network who has a lot of experience in church conflict. And so they have been connected with this expert to walk them through, to figure out, no, don't just walk away without a severance. You deserve something, you know? And so, but how do you negotiate? And again, those are very secular terms that we have to put into play in a situation like this. And so, and this couple also has already been connected with one of our counselors. And so they immediately have at least 2 people plus the staff at Pastors Hope Network to walk alongside them. And I find myself texting a lot late at night when they'll say, what do we do now? And I said, well, you know, this, or contact so-and-so tomorrow. And but we step into that horrible loneliness that ministers discover, and walk alongside them throughout the transition.
And that's the terminology I really appreciate too, Deanna, is you walk alongside them. It isn't that you just shove papers to them and say good luck, but you're actually walking with them in that. I appreciate that. Yes,
and we contact them with a regularity, saying, how are things going? What's going on? How can we help? Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And usually they write back saying, thank you so much for checking on us, you know, because they're not used to that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And one of the things ministers discover when they're terminated is suddenly, overnight, their phone no longer rings. They no longer get text messages. They no longer receive emails. Just the silence of the communication is a constant reminder of what they've lost. And so if we can at least shoot them a text, give them a call, it keeps them reminded that there are people out there who care. There are people who love them, that God is not through with them, and God is going to use them, and somehow they're going to get through this transition.
Well, thank you, Deanna. And I'm excited to see what God's going to continue to do in your ministry at Pastors Hope Network. Thank you for sharing a few of the details with us.
You bet.
And how can folks get in touch with you? And just a reminder, you don't have to be a pastor or a spouse who's gone through a forced termination to support and encourage Pastors Hope Network. How can people get involved with your ministry, and how can they get in touch with you?
Well, to get in touch with me is just, they can go to our website, pastorshope.net. If it's a pastor who has been terminated and needs our resources, there is a special form on the website. It's confidential. It just comes to me. No one else sees it, but they can give me some information so that when I contact them, I, know a little bit about what who I'm calling. But there's also, they can just email me directly at Deanna, DEANNA at pastorshope.net. People hear about us. I've actually had a financial advisor call me from another state, and he just said, hey, one of your counselors told me about what you do. I want to be a part. And he has become one of our financial advisors who actually came out of a ministry background. And he is so vital. And our financial advisors, they just donate their time. There's no charge to that expert guidance. And so if you have a listener who has some expertise in a way that we could put to work to support our ministers and to really rally around them, then by all means, I would love to hear from them. I don't mean, this probably sounds crass, but we are a nonprofit organization. And if God just lays it on your heart that we need to be part of your financial giving, of your philanthropic giving, we would be honored and very grateful for that financial support because, as I said, obviously our counselors, professional counseling costs money, and they shouldn't do it for free, but we underwrite that cost. And thus far, we have never had to turn down a minister or spouse who has wanted the counseling. My answer has always been yes. And then, I don't go to the checkbook first to see if the money's there. I just say, yes, we'll take care of it. And God's always provided. But our financial policy is that we can invest up to $500 per family. So if a donor says, hey, how can I help? $500 provides counseling for a minister and his family.
So that's at pastorshope.net. They can find out information on how to donate to the ministry as well.
Sure.
Deanna, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. This has been a great opportunity, and I've enjoyed our visit very much.
Yeah.
I have too.
Would love to have you back again sometime. So
Okay.
we'll talk about when and where that'll happen. But Dad, good to see you.
You too, E.
And folks, thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of Willis, Wit, and Wisdom. Bye, everybody.